Hey guys, this is Mathieu Frémaux aka Frameox. This video is a tutorial about how to recreate this cool animation I've created a few years ago when I was promoting SpringyFX. So this nice fishing float falling into water with nice splash effects and secondary animation created by SpringyFX. So without any waiting, let's go ahead and get started. So I've prepared this base scene with just a light blue color for the background, a simple line which will be representing my fishing line, and let's create the floater, the fishing float first. So let's create a new solid. So by the way, my composition is 1080 pixels in square format. So let's create a solid. The color isn't important, for example, right now. So let's create a circular mask onto it by just double clicking this option here. Let's double click on that, maintain the Command Alt key to reduce its size like that, just to make it appear like a real fishing float. Okay, this kind of shape. Let's create another shape with the same tool. So let's create a new mask. Alt click here on the vertical middle line. Alt click and hold down the Command key plus Shift to create a nice perfect circle shape like that. And create another mask with the rectangle tool. So for this one, I will create a thin rectangle shape. And I will just shift click on these two vertices and move them toward the bottom of the comp. Okay, so we will be stylizing this one later. So let's keep this pink color for now. Okay, so of course, this is a fishing line that has to fall into water, and we have to create the water first. So let's create the base of the water. So right click, create new shape layer, call this water, and twirl it down and let's create add here an ellipse shape. This will be the droplets that will be animated in our water during the splash. So let's create an ellipse, click on fill. Okay, so you have now a big circle filled with red. Let's make the ellipse path way smaller. Let's say something like 35 pixels, for example. And click on this water layer and go in my tool called EasyShapeFX. This first tool, EasyShapeFX, is a name your own price product on aescripts. So you can have it for free if you type 0. So yeah, you can download this one for free if you want to. So select the water layer, maybe mask the solid right now and rename that one float. So mask it for the moment and let's concentrate on the water. So the shape layer called water is selected, and you can now click on the radial array tool for my EasyShape from my EasyShape tool. So click on that and instantly you have a nice array of circles. You can play with the angle of completion and make it, let's say, 180 degrees. And you can select both the group 1 created and the radial array effects, group them one level more, so with Command G, and rename this one droplets. Okay, and twirl this group down, go to transform droplets and rotate the whole thing like something like that, just to have both the extremities like an horizontal line. And of course you'll have to reposition the anchor point and the position by zero them out, just like that. Okay, so now if I turn the rotation, they turn by the center of the comp, which is what I wanted. So just eyeball the rotation to make these two guys here more or less horizontally aligned. And this is a moment where you can tweak the number of instance count, and as you can see, you'll have probably to change the rotation again based on what you want. So maybe I will add, let's say 11 instance counts. So let's align this, yeah, something like that. Okay, perfect. So let's twirl up this group for now and go inside your water layer, go to add, click on this little guy here, and this time you can create a rectangle, and this rectangle will be the surface of the water. So you want to cover half the size of your composition. So let's increase the rectangle path. Just eyeball the path, but go further than your composition, because we will be using the wiggle path that will deform the rectangle after a while. So this is important to make it bigger than your comp. Okay, so select it, add a fill, and select both and group them with Command G, and name this surface. Twirl it down and move the rectangle path on the position, on the position Y here, and place it maybe here, where the center of the comp is approximately. You don't have to be perfect for this, but it's nice to be neat in your composition. So, okay, you have your water layer, and all you have to do now is to select your water, go inside my EasyShapeFX tool, and click on this nice icon called Metable. So once you click on that, you instantly have this blobby effect that kind of merge everything in an organic way. So this is nice, but it's way too strong for what I aim at. So I will go inside the effect and play with the blobbiness option. Maybe something like, in my case, something like 15 will be enough. Okay, cool. And now if I go to the, yeah, of course it's not animated yet, so it's kind of weird. So we will be doing two things. The first thing is to add in the water layer, in the droplet group, select the droplet group. You can go to add and add a wiggle transform here. Once you do that, you can place it below the radial array FX. This is important because you want to affect and to wiggle transform every droplet separately. So place the wiggle transform below the radial array FX, twirl it down and go to transform and play with the position Y. And as you can see, once you do that, you kind of displace everything like in an organic way, which is nice. You can also play with the scale, but it's not mandatory, but I always love to add a bit of randomness, maybe 50%. Okay, and I don't want it to be animated, so I will go to wiggle transform, wiggles per second, and zero this thing out. Okay, so this is cool. Maybe there are too much drops, but we will adjust it later if needed. Okay, so maybe we could go a bit further in the values of blobbiness. So let's make it a bit higher. 20, yeah, 20 is nice for my shape. Okay, maybe increase the wiggle transform a bit more. And now all I have to do is to animate the splash effect. So I will go maybe at 1 second and play with the group. No, sorry, it's in the transform droplets. I will twirl this down and play with, I will keyframe the position. Okay, I will keyframe the position and keyframe also the array radius. Maybe this is what you want as the final radius. So I will keep it to maybe 275. Yeah, I will keyframe that at 1 second. So click on that. I will go a bit sooner in the timeline, maybe 10, maybe 10 frames before, and I will zero this array radius parameter, and I will position these transform droplets here to be below the surface of my water. So I will place it maybe at 100 here. And I will just put this keyframe 1 frame sooner, go a bit later, and place it above the surface of my water here, something like that. And at the very end of my radius animation, I will reposition that in the so below the surface here. Okay, something like that. Okay, and all I have to do now is to easy ease the keyframes and to make some final adjustments. So I will select my layer, type U on the keyboard, and easy ease the end keyframes. Okay, this one also could be easy ease, so I will type F9. And yeah, you have the base of your water splash. Cool. Okay, maybe I should tweak the curves a bit. So maybe I will select this guy here, go to the curve and play with the speed value a bit, just increase their velocity a bit and see what happens. Okay, cool. This is the base of my splash animation. I love it. Okay, nice. So now you can turn back your float layer, so make it visible. I will put the water below the float. So you can just now animate your float, and I will be doing some very basic motion to make it kind of fall into the water for now. So select your float layer, type P on your keyboard and right click on the position to separate its dimensions, and keyframe your floater to be, it has to go a bit below the surface like that. So maybe 600 in my case, maybe not your case, but I will put that, or maybe less. So something like that. Yeah, I prefer this one. So keyframe this Y position here and make it move at the top of your composition and make it at the exterior of your composition. You don't want to see the bottom of your fishing float. Okay. And I will create a manual overshoot to make it below the surface, but even more inside the water, like that, something like this. Okay, so bam, and it kind of go back a bit, even a bit higher than the water surface. So this will be this kind of motion, that, and that. Okay, of course you have to keyframe, so easy ease all the animation. This one has to be tweaked because it has to kind of fall in the water with a high speed. So this keyframe here has to be tweaked on its velocity like that. Maybe you can play with this one and increase the velocity a bit like that. And you should have this kind of motion Okay, nice bouncy animation. Cool. Okay, as you can see, the animation is not really synchronized with my droplets animation. This is because I had created my water droplets animation before. So let's select your water layer, type U on your keyboard, and let's adjust the timing a bit. So if the floater enters the water here, I have to create the animation here. So I have just to offset the keyframes a bit. And now I have the base animation. Something like that. Okay, cool. And so now is the time to play with SpringyFX, which isn't a free tool, but you will be able to purchase this one with a nice reduction, because aescript will be organizing a nice promo sale, which is called summer sale, during August. So SpringyFX will be a part of the 4th week during August, so please check it out. Okay, so now that I have animated my floater, I can just use that basic position motion to drive secondary animation for my water. So to do that, all you have to do is to create the deformation you want first. So in my case, this will be right-click, Effect, Distort, and I will be using the wave warp. So create a wave warp effect. I will create a wave warp, but I don't want to touch the borders of my composition. So I will go to pinning and create and select, the all edges. Like that, I have a nice fading transition towards the edge of the comp. And I can adjust the wave width by increasing this value. Let's say something like 75 in my case will be nice. Okay. And the animation should be quicker. So I will play with the wave speed and I will increase it to maybe 3.3. Let's see what happens. Yeah, perfect. And what I want to do is to drive the animation of the wave 8, this guy here, okay, based on the velocity of my fishing float. To do that, all I have to do is to select the wave 8, double click on that to reveal it in the timeline. So it appears there. I can do SS twice on my keyboard to solo this one so you can see what happens. And this property have to be selected. Zero it. Don't zero it. Actually put it until you are satisfied with the maximum value you want. In my case, it's something like, maybe 75. Okay. Maybe the wave width should be, bigger. Something like that. So 110 maybe. Okay. So this is 75 is the maximum I want for the maximum wave effect. So select this wave 8, go to SpringyFX and click on custom effect. This guy here. Once you do that, you will be prompted by this pop-up, which asks you to type the initials, the 2 letters of what property you want to base your motion. So in my case, I want to base that on the fishing float position Y motion. So I will type PY in uppercase like that and click OK. And now, as you can see, nothing happens, but this is because by default, if you apply any of the deformers of SpringyFX, it will apply it to itself. But the water layer doesn't move on its position Y. This is a float that moves on position Y. So you have to go to the water spring constraint control layer that has been created by the tool. Go to spring constraint control and click on inherit motion from. By default, it's water, so it's itself, like I said before, and I want that to be based on the float here. And as you can see, once you do that, the pixels are pushing a bit up because now it's analyzing the effects of my float animation. And last thing you have to do is to go back to the water layer, go to the wave warp, and zero out the value of wave 8 because you don't want to have this animation at the beginning. So type 0. And now if you go back to the start of your animation and if you type play, as you can see, okay, nice. You have this nice bouncy animation on the wave, which is exactly what I want. There are a few things that I can improve to do animation better. So I can go a bit later in the timeline. And as you can see, this is not normal that the float animation hasn't touched the water yet and the wave is already beginning. So you have to offset the timing of the wave animation. To do that, all you have to do is to go to water spring constraint control, go to spring constraint control, just where we had changed the inherit motion from layer, and you can twirl down the spring physical attributes and play with the time offset here. If you leave it to 0, it will animate the wave directly, so this is not what we want. We want to wait until the float actually touch the water. So I will just change this value time offset to something like 0.5 maybe. Okay, it's a bit too late, so let's try 0.5 instead. So 0.4, sorry. Okay, this is better, but not enough yet. So 0.3. Okay, a bit too soon. And 0. Maybe this. Okay, so I will try 0.35, and this is perfect, exactly what I wanted. Okay, so now if I press play, as you can see, you have a nice bouncing motion based on the float animation. And what is really magic with SpringyFX is that you can now play with the position of your float even more. And the secondary animation of the water will be fully animated and automatically animated without creating any additional keyframes. So let me show you what I mean. Just pretend that at the end of your fishing line, there is a fish that has that kind of bites your bait. Okay, the bait you have here at the end of the line. So normally, if you do some fishing, I do sometimes. So let's say you have your float animation that will do that. So let's click on P to reveal the position. I will create a new keyframe. I will do some animation like this. Okay, just a bit, something like that. Okay, so the fish is actually biting a bit what is at the end of the line. It will go a bit upper, so it will bounce back to its position with a nice overshoot. Okay, something like that. Okay, as you can see, the water is displaced based on the motion of the float. Okay, let's copy this animation. Okay, let's press play. Actually, it is moving a bit. So let's copy this keyframe here. Okay. Okay. Let's select these keyframes here, copy this one to create a bit more bites from the fish. Oh, actually, I have to select this one too. Okay. Make it something like that. Okay, so let's check the animation. Okay, there is a little problem here because the motion is so fast that the offset I have induced in my time offset here for the first splash doesn't work anymore for my animation. As you can see, it remains still here, and it's only beginning to deform there. So it's not good. But you can keyframe this parameter here, time offset. So I will keyframe that and go a bit further, but it has to happen before these animations. And I will zero this one here. So now it will be animated just as the float animates itself, which is way better. Okay, let's actually increase the slider a bit just to see it a bit further. Actually, I like the way it appears at the beginning, so I will leave it as it is. But for this motion, I want to be less subtle, so I will animate also the slider wave warp 8 max here. So I will keyframe it there and maybe make it a bit more, a bit more strength here. So as you can see, I have keyframed these values a bit, and now I have same animation than before, and yeah, a bit more animation there. Okay, cool. And now that the fish has taken the bait, it will take the float below the surface completely. So animate this last time. So I will create this animation, maybe do a little anticipation here, like that, and make it disappear in the deep water here. Okay, so something like that. Okay, let's click play again. Okay, cool. And again, I would prefer to have a way, something that is way more significant in my animation, so I can exaggerate the motion of my floater. And as soon as I do that, as you can see on this keyframe, the wave will be more pronunciated, as you can see here. So let's exaggerate this motion a bit, something like that. Okay, cool. So let's play again. Nice, nice. Okay, cool. And it's perfectly looped because it remains still at the very end of the animation. Okay, nice. So let's actually exaggerate things a bit more by inducing a bit more droplets here. So I will go back to my water layer, click U, and copy and paste this animation from the droplets. So copy, paste. And actually, I also want to copy these last keyframes here and paste them here because I need to, I don't need animation between these two droplet animations, so I have to ensure that this keyframe remain the same here. Okay, cool. And there is one more thing I can do to make it better. I can change the seed of the wiggle transform here. to make it different from the start to the end. To do that, I will just temporarily, I will uncheck the FX here to don't see the wave warp effect. And I will go to the water content, droplet, wiggle transform, twirl down this guy here, and you can animate the random seed, make it right click, toggle alt keyframe, and you can animate this one. So I will leave it as it is for the start animation. Okay. And I will change it to something that I prefer for the last animation. So something maybe like maybe something like that. Actually, I couldn't even change the one from the start because I don't really like it. I could change it for this guy here. Okay, so now I have one animation that looks like that for the beginning. And if you change the seed and you realize that there is a little bump in the water, this is because you have to adjust the position of your droplets here. So this is because this guy has to be below like that. So you can always change the position at the end. And if I press play, I have now that. Okay, cool. Actually, now that I see that, I notice that this animation of the droplets shouldn't be starting here, but only when the float animation begins to fall in the deep water. So I would just offset the animations of my droplets a bit, so something like that. So okay, something like that. Okay, this is just trials here, so don't hesitate to take your time to adjust the time. And if I press play, I have now that, which is pretty cool. Okay, great. I can activate the FX option to see back my wave animation that I had before. And now I have that. Okay, cool. Yeah, pretty nice. Maybe the wave warp should be a bit broader in its size, so something like that maybe. Yeah, it's way better like that. I love it. Okay, cool. So one last thing I could do is to induce a bit more wiggly motion at the surface of the water. To do that, since this is a shape layer, and this is because we had created the rectangle bigger than the comp size, we can just go in the water layer, go to the surface subgroup, and add a wiggle path. And you can twirl down this option, add more details and more size, and choose the points to be on smooth. And I can reduce the details until I am satisfied with the overall motion of the waves. Okay, this is pretty nice, maybe a bit more. Yeah, something like that. Usually the water should be a bit more quick to do its motion, so I will increase the wiggles per second a bit, something like 3, for example. Okay, and of course the size has to be way smaller, so something like maybe 25 maybe. Okay, and actually I want to make a perfect loop, so I will just increase this size just when the floater is in the water. So I will make it at the maximum there, and I will animate it from 0 there. So it's perfectly still at the beginning, and the motion arrives afterward. And at the very end, I want to make an animation out to make it loop perfectly. So I will create a new keyframe on the size and create another keyframe at the very end of the comp. And I will zero this size here. And now, if I press play, I have that animation. Okay, cool. Perfect. So one very last thing I will do to create a more appealing animation is to stylize things a bit. So beginning with the water, I will duplicate the water and place it above the float. This will be the front part of the water. Okay, I will call this front. The second one will be called back. And I will select them both, type T in the keyboard and reduce their opacity a bit. Let's say something like 75%. And now, yeah, I have something already cool because it has automatically changed the seed based on index of layers, so it's already cool. What I would like to do is also to alternate the wave to have something cooler to see. So to do that, you just have to select either of the layer. I will take the waterfront, for example, and go to wave warp, and you will just invert direction here, or change the wave speed to be minus, but I prefer to change the direction here. So instead of 90 degrees, I will type minus 90 degrees. And now, as you can see, they will go in a reverse direction, which is a nice way to create cool water animation when you have two layers here. So let's check the playback. And now we can just stylize the float a bit. So don't leave the tutorial yet, because I've got a few really nice tricks for you to stylize this float, and rather unusual techniques. So please stay here. It's not finished yet. So for the floater, I will first right-click, add an effect, go to noise and grain, add a fractal noise. I will select for the noise type spline. I will reduce the complexity to be 2 or 3 maybe. And I will add, by right-clicking it again in effect, I will add a stylize, posterize effect. I will leave it to 7 level for now, and I will right-click again, add another effect called in the Stylize 2. I will call it Fine Edges. And what I aim at is to create like some wood grain. So I will increase the levels of the posterize effect to kind of obtain, this cool topographical shapes you see there. So play with these options a bit to create a few cycles for your noise, like that. And let's go to transform for your fractal noise. Twirl it down and uncheck uniform scaling. Play with the scale of the width a bit, something like maybe 50, and increase the one from the 8 a bit, so something like 150, and what I want to do is to automatically animate it without any keyframes. So I will type a really small expression. Don't be afraid, it will be really simple to type. So let's alt click on the offset turbulence, sorry. So alt click on the chronometer here and select it, go there and open a square bracket, type time in lowercase, multiplied by maybe something like 75 would be cool, and add a comma and type 0, and you can just close the square bracket here. Let's see what it does. So, okay, really cool. It just adds a bit more volume by just making the pattern kind of rotating around its 3D axis, but it's 2D, of course, but it's really subtle and it adds a lot to such animations. So maybe you can make it a bit slower, yeah, like that. There is still one thing that I really don't like in this effect, with all these effects stacked like that, especially due to the fine edges. This is the black stroke you have there. In order to remove that effect, you can, on the float, add a last effect called Minimax. So you will find that by right-clicking, going to Effect, Channel, Minimax. And if you go to the channel and select the alpha, and you change the operation to be on minimum, you can just type 1 and it should remove exactly 1 pixel on the alpha here. There is a bit of aliasing here, but you can, if you dezoom to the 100%, you won't see it. Or if you really want to avoid this kind of thing, you can add some external plugins like OLM Smoother, which is free, by the way, if you type on Google. So I have it on my machine. I will add it right there. So I can type in OLM Smoother, and instantly the jagged edge has been removed as well. It's smoothed. Okay. So last but not least, add a gradient. So on my float layer, I will right click again, go to Effect, Generate, and where it is, where is my gradient ramp? Gradient ramp, here, gradient ramp. And you can just select your start of the ramp and put it there, and move the end of the ramp there. And actually I know the value of my solid, so I can just type 540 for the start of the ramp and 541. This is important to have one and not exactly the same, because if I type the same, the gradient ramp is broken. So I had to be just a bit at the bottom of the other one. Okay. So, and actually it's not exactly in the middle that I want my line here. I want it to be just like real fishing floats. So maybe something like 501. Yeah, this is better. Okay, so last thing I will do is to change the black color by a nice fluo red color, just like real world fishing float, something like that, for example. And I will just blend with original and add just a bit of blend just to retrieve the nice texture we had with the wood grain here. I don't know if you can see it clearly in the video tutorial, but I hope so. So maybe 20 or 25 if you really want to see the nice textures from the wood grain. And last thing I will add is to add a bit of depth by going to the float, right click, layer styles, color overlay. Let's undo that. So right click, layer styles, gradient overlay. This is what I wanted. Gradient overlay. Go to the gradient overlay. Change the angle to 0 instead of 990. Okay, and you have that, and you can just change its blend mode to overlay. And now you have something that is way more in volume. So this is cool. I will add another final effect to layer style. Right click, layer style. I will add a bevel and emboss. Okay, so bevel and emboss, I will drill down its bevel and emboss layer style effects. And I will increase the size. Okay, I will play with the angle and the altitude to kind of create nice specular reflections here. And I can play with the value of the shadow opacity, maybe have a bit of blue in the shadows, because my overall ambience is blue. Okay, pretty subtle, but it can add a bit more to the colors. And you can increase the size depending of your needs. Okay, cool. And now if I play my animation again, I can see that I have recreated the whole thing I had shown to you at the very start of the tutorial. So normally you should end up with something similar. I hope you have learned something new today, and especially how to use my tools called EasyShapeFX, which is free again, and SpringyFX, that will be a part of the upcoming 4th week of aescript summer sales in August. So check this out. So yeah, see you guys for another tutorial and cool other things. Bye.